The following half-hour show is a paid political program and is not endorsed by this station, management, or staff.
The following program is sponsored by Excalibur Insurance Management Services.
This week's guest, new Pennsylvania Senator Marty Flynn, was elected last month to represent the 22nd Senatorial District, which encompasses portions of Luzerne and Monroe counties, as well as all of Lackawanna County. He won the special election to fill the former Senator John Blake's seat, who had resigned to take a job on the staff of United States Congressman Matt Cartwright. Marty is a native of Scranton and was a 2000 graduate of Marywood University, where he earned a bachelor's degree in legal studies. He is a former Lackawanna County Prison Inmate Education Program Coordinator, as well as chairman of the Prison Misconduct Board. Prior to that, Marty was a Lackawanna County prison guard, as well as had a career in mixed martial arts and was a professional boxer for 10 years. Senator Flynn has already received some of his committee assignments, and they're good ones. He will sit on the Senate Appropriations Committee, as well as the Transportation Committee, which will put him in a good position to bring back money to northeastern Pennsylvania. On this week's show, we will be discussing his campaign, as well as some of his go-to issues, such as school funding, as well as legalizing marijuana in small amounts for recreational use. We look forward to having him on today's show.
This is the Volpe Report, a weekly news and political interview show examining the latest local, state, and national issues with Chuck Volpe. Insightful, informative, controversial, the area's premier political talk show, the Volpe Report.
Marty, welcome to the Volpe Report. And I'm going to do something right now that I haven't done on the air in well over a year. I usually shake my guests' hands. Now that we've come out of most of what the COVID restrictions are, honestly, I'm tired of fist bumps and elbows and all that. And at my age, it starts to hurt after a while. So it's good to shake somebody's hand again and be here in person. So first of all, Marty, as our audience obviously knows, congratulations, you're now a Pennsylvania Senator. It's not quite the most exclusive club in the world. They say that about United States senators, but it's one of them because there's only 50 in Pennsylvania. You're one of 50 senators. So you have obviously quintupled your representation in your district. And instead of representing a portion of Lackawanna County, you now represent all of Lackawanna County, the top tier of Luzerne County, and about half of Monroe County. I remember I ran for the seat 12 years ago or so. So again, congratulations. And what are your initial thoughts? Obviously, you sit here in victory. So, and I'll remind you of a saying that John F. Kennedy made famous after a bad event. It was after the Bay of Pigs when he said, "Victory has 100 fathers. Defeat is an orphan." It's good that you're not an orphan now. You have a lot of people caught up in your wake. So talk about that victory, and we'll talk about the campaign in a second. We'll look back. But before we get to that point, talk about what's happened since.
Well, thank you for the well wishes, and it was a hard fought battle. We ran a tight campaign. It was 7 weeks nonstop, close to $1 million race. It was a lot of time working the phones, raising money, knocking doors, getting the people on your side. And the people involved in my campaign, my friends and family that helped pull me across the finish line, really were a help. It was very, very time intensive in such a short period of time to get things done.
2 months or so, right?
Yeah,
it was a quick campaign.
It was quick, from the initial endorsement from the Democratic Party to the election. It was very, very high-paced.
No question. For a while, when I was in the crosshairs, as you were in the crosshairs, it's tough. I had our United States congressman sit in that seat in the fall of 2020 last year when he was getting, if you remember, crucified. Yeah. Matt Cartwright I'm talking about, getting just crushed. Most of it are lies, and they're not blatant lies. That would be illegal. But the innuendo and implication, that the conclusion they take from some basic facts that are true, is a lie. It's completely.
Wouldn't it be great if you could only run on yourself and what you've done? Wouldn't it be great? But
it's not possible.
Whether it's in a boxing ring, whether it's in the political arena, your weaknesses are going to be focused on.
Sure.
What mistakes you've made. You know what I mean? You're human. That's what they try to capitalize on.
Right.
And how are you gonna run through that? How are you going to take the punches? That's what it's about, and that's what the people of northeastern PA, that's what they want to see. They want to see what you're made of and what you can take.
Sure.
I'm not going to cry about the way someone attacked me or called me a fraud, but
Right.
In the end, I was victorious. So
The people got the message.
yeah, thanks for the dust up.
Yeah. Well, when I congratulated you, I left you a message, and I think anybody that's been in that arena, I'm a big Rocky fan, Sylvester Stallone fan. I'm sure you are. You were a fighter, a real fighter. And in one of his, I can't remember which one, but in one, he's having an issue with his son, and his son's going through some tough times.
Fifth one.
It was the fifth one. You remember it. But it's worth hearing, and it's worth the audience hearing what Rocky said to his son. He said. Life is tough, and it will beat you down. And he said, it's not how hard you can hit, it's how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. He said, that's how winning is done.
Yeah.
And I think you epitomize that. I mean, and as I
My
said.
boxing trainer used to always say to me, Jake Moskwa, he would say to me, he'd say, Marty, you'll be surprised how hard you work. Usually the harder you work, the better you do.
Right.
And he goes, usually what you put in, you'll get out. And that always seemed to run true in everything I've done in my life.
Sure.
It can overcome, hard work can overcome a lot.
There was a time back before negative campaigning. It mirrored what happened after. It was a more genteel time.
Yes.
There wasn't partisanship. People worked together. You weren't vilified because you had a D or an R in front of your name, in the rancor, in the howling that goes on now. So back then, it was natural that campaigning, there wasn't much negative campaigning because when you got there, it was a good place to go to work.
But one thing about the Senate is there's more room for bipartisanship in the Senate. It's more personal. You're not one of
212
203
or 203 now, yeah.
Yeah, you're one of 50 that and it has a focus to it in the Senate. It's so tight knit, more so that
Sure.
I think it pushes people to work together more.
Yeah. And you've demonstrated your ability to do that throughout your career. I mean, you made a funny comment in one of your, you said in the debate in one of your commercials, I've heard it, like, well, I know where the bathrooms are, as far as, but all kidding aside, you do know your way around the Capitol, and you already have forged some of those relationships. And now that you're in a chamber that I think the last time I checked is 28, 1, and 21 is the last time I checked, right?
Yeah.
The one being my good friend, and I know yours too, Senator John Udechak, who is an independent. And he'll be somewhat of a guide for you, and I know he's already called and congratulated you and said he'd help you. But yeah, you're going to have a good chance. The Republicans, I've had a lot of Republicans and Democrats on this show, and it seems the ones I've interviewed, and I mean I'm talking about like the top leadership. I've had Jay Corman on the show. I've had Mike Turzai when he was Speaker of the House of Representatives on this show. And there's a camaraderie, I think, that goes on that people in the newspaper reporting especially, they don't hear it. You hear the rancor. So yeah. I think you're going to have a good opportunity to get things done, which is the most important thing for this area.
Especially for our area and the people of our area. I'm going down there to represent their values and how they feel on things, which is, pretty middle of the road ideology-wise. Right. So, some things that I may personally feel a certain way about, I'm not going to vote that way, or I'm not going to push those parts of the agenda, for my constituency. I'm going to push what they really want.
Sure. So. And that's smart. And I think, the dividends for this area will benefit. And we have a good group of legislators from this area, so they're people you work with now. So having spent time with them in the House, you're going to be effectively kind of the head of the delegation being the senator. That's just the way it works.
I'll be the only Democratic senator north of I-80.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'll be
Udechak's no longer one, so yeah,
I'll be the Democratic chair of finance when I go over.
Right.
I found that out, and I'll be on appropriations. So,
well,
I'm excited about that, and transportation also, especially for our area. I think that's
huge.
That's huge. So
you can do something about the corridor glut maybe that that we have, and,
especially down this way.
Yeah, no kidding. The other thing you might be able to do is talk to and get a friendlier audience from our governor. one of the things that I think would be help this area immensely is a rail system that takes us to New York.
Great, that would
Matt
be
Cartwright,
unbelievable. Yep,
he
he's
had-
been spearheading that since we came in office together in 2013. That's been his
Exactly.
top
Exactly.
on his
And
agenda.
now he sits as a chair of House Appropriations of Congress. But the way that the system, I guess, the way the legislation is drawn, Pennsylvania has to not match the full amount, but has to match a percentage. And the governor has flat out said, I'm not doing it.
Yeah,
They're
it's
not
28
giving-
miles. I think 21 of the miles are in Pennsylvania.
20,
that,
yeah, exactly.
that have to be
Exactly.
It's like a $500 million
Exactly.
project, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, so as I said, so maybe you can reason with, I'm pretty sure he won't take my phone call.
I think the president supports the project too, so
Yeah.
I think that's a big deal.
Yeah, it is. It would be wonderful, obviously, and what it would do for commerce in our area. Talk a little bit about the campaign. Your first decision was, this was a show we were going to run before the election, actually, but we got tied up in all the legal stuff. We ended up covering that part of it. I remember when you called me and we talked about it. What will, in becoming senator, what kind of led you down that road? You knew it was going to be a tough fight. You had to win the Democratic nomination. What led you down that road, and why did you think you were going to be the guy to get the job done?
Well, I've seen the results that I brought home for my own district over the 9 plus years that I've been in there. I brought home over $22 million to my district. So I thought, my neighborhood is basically half of my district in my House seat. And as a senator, that you times that by 4 or 5.
Exactly.
And I figured, not only could I help my immediate community, I could help the whole entire region, in the same way. Just magnify my approach. And I've been here a while. I said, I think I could do this job and push for it. And I focused on getting the nomination. I had to.
You won convincingly, like 2-1.
Almost, but it was a lot of people in a lot of areas that I had to convince that I was the person for the job, and they got behind my candidacy, and I have a great. The other part is I have a great working relationship with Representative Mullins, Representative Kozorowski, and Mike Carroll in the district, and Maury Madden up in Monroe. So I'm excited to work with all those guys. I was elected chairman of the Northeast delegation by them in the House. So, I'm just going to further that working relationship.
Senator Blake will be there for you too, and he's now obviously one of the chief assistants to our United States Congressman Matt Cartwright. And to me, John was always a great administrator, really understood policy. So
Better than anyone I know.
Amazing. Amazing. I've often thought you and he and I, used to laugh. I used to tell him, I said, you're better in an executive branch, honestly, because of your understanding of policy and administration and how to get things moved. And, one of the things he expressed frustration dealing with, you'll be dealing with this when you get there, is the numbers are, you better make bipartisan friends and Republican friends when you have that kind of majority, effectively 29-21. It's almost 60%. So your ability to get things done, they frustrated him to a degree. I think John was, my own personal opinion, a great senator, did a great job for the area, but he is more comfortable in policy situations as opposed to the political type of stuff that goes on in the back rooms that gets stuff done. I think you actually are, and I mean that as a compliment. I consider myself that, by the way. You hire people for policy, and they're your staff.
It's all about the personal relationships to get things done.
Exactly right. And you've always done that. Yeah. I've watched your career. I've known you for many, many years. I've watched you kind of grow up. I'm dating myself. But, you, I think, are especially equipped in this time with a large Republican majority to get things done. John Udicek always did, even when he still had a D in front of his name. He worked across the aisle. He did it in the House, and then he carried that. It was an easy transition for him to go from Democrat to independent. First of all, the Republicans immediately took him into leadership. He became part of the leadership caucus as an independent, which was, and I know he's looking forward to working with you for Northeastern Pennsylvania. The two of you will get a lot done here.
Yeah, I'm excited to help bring economic prosperity back to the 22nd district. That's all I'm focused on. So
it's a good focus. Well, we're at our first break, Marty. So we're We're here today again with a person very well known. He was on your TVs for about a month and a half constantly. That's our Pennsylvania Senator from the 22nd Senatorial District, a district that includes Lackawanna as well as parts of Luzerne and Monroe counties. And that's my friend Marty Flynn. He will be sworn in, I found out before it went on air. June the 9th is the date, yeah. So an event that's big for him, well earned. And we'll be back to talk about some legislation and where he's going to start picking up when he gets to the Senate, when he does get sworn in, and where we go from here in northeastern Pennsylvania right after these messages.
Every week, Chuck Volpe shares his perspective on Pennsylvania issues in the news and on your mind. From new laws being introduced in Harrisburg and Washington to government spending and even local controversies, hear how they affect us in northeast and central Pennsylvania. Catch Volpe's Views every Tuesday on the Fox 56 News, first at 10.
Welcome back. We're here with Pennsylvania Senator, 22nd Senatorial District, Marty Flynn, newly minted, about to be sworn in about a week or so. Let's jump right in with what you see as the issues facing Pennsylvania, and specifically some of the issues which we talked off camera about that face our region, our school district, our tax structure. Take it from there.
Yeah. First and foremost, structurally, budget-wise, we're looking at issues, structural issues. You know, the American Recovery Act, COVID-19 money, whatever you want to call it, the money that comes from the federal government will probably, whatever they come up with in the federal government, will bail us out this year. Whatever money's come in, what they use it for, budget, whatever happens.
Infrastructure. There's going to be money coming from the American Recovery Act in some form
or another. Yeah.
They're getting a little closer every time I read between the Biden administration and the Republicans, that because they want some bipartisanship. You know, they're still off about $700 billion. It's a lot, but something's coming. So you're right.
But the issue is structurally, without that, you know, we're somewhere probably north of $2 billion. I'm on appropriations in the House. I've seen the numbers. You know, we have issues.
Welcome to the party.
So we need to fix these things. The state needs new revenue. You know, whether it's legalization of marijuana, which we're coming late to the table. You know what I mean? We're the only state in the country that doesn't have a Marcellus shale tax on natural gas, a severance tax. Whether it's closing the Delaware loophole to make businesses pay taxes in Pennsylvania. You know, these are ways we can raise additional revenue for the state to balance the budget, possibly raising the minimum wage, you know, $7.25. All neighboring states have a higher minimum wage than us. You know, we have some structural issues that we really need to pull our pants up and buckle up and take care of. So that's something I'm very focused on, especially going into appropes in the Senate. So
one of the areas you've made, I know, a concern of yours is the underfunding in schools.
And that's directly tied to the new revenues, you know, because we're not getting those monies, and the state doesn't have the money to give to the school districts. You know, Scranton being one of the lowest funded urban school districts in the state of Pennsylvania, getting around $5,000 per student, it forces the tax base to pick up the burden. And, you know, and in Scranton, it's over 40% of the land, the physical land, is owned by nonprofits that don't pay taxes. So the city and the working class people of Scranton have to pick up that in their property taxes and their city taxes, which have been going exponentially up over the years. And we're also facing these same problems in the neighboring municipalities in the 22nd district. It's starting to trickle down into there, especially with rising pension costs for school districts. So, you know, we need to attack this and raise new revenue to balance our checkbook.
You gave me a statistic earlier that Scranton is like the worst funded for urban area school district. We've read stories in the Scranton Times and I've seen in the news about how bad it is. It was staggering what you told me, something along the lines of the second worst funded urban school district.
It's $28 million more a year.
Than Scranton.
Yeah, than Scranton. $280 million in the last 10 years, if you think about it, which is astronomical. And the other thing people don't realize, there's 40 languages spoken in the Scranton School District.
Wow. 40. I didn't know we had 40 languages on this planet.
40 languages in the Scranton School District. So, you know, the administration dealing with that, rising charter school costs, you know, these things are really squeezing the school district to make it's almost impossible for public education to succeed. And our teachers are still putting out decent numbers.
Right.
Being that severely
Competitive,
underfunded.
yeah.
We have great teachers in the school district, so that's unbelievable.
Right. Let's talk about, you're on some important committees, starting with appropriations. Our audience is well versed from myself and Matt Cartwright talking about the power of appropriations. It applies in the state as well. And but you're also on some other important committees. Transportation obviously goes to the top of the list as well. So what do you see and what will you be working on relative to the transportation issues? The corridor of 81 is a known disaster area as far as high accident rates. It's pretty much a glut with traffic. You know, it's bumper to bumper, 40 to 50 miles an hour on the interstate.
Yeah.
So some of the issues. What's on your agenda to get done in the Senate? Some of the other things.
Well, I think that'll come in with the federal hitch also. If there's a transportation bill funded, I'll definitely try to steer funds to the 81 corridor with Mike Carroll. He's the transportation chair on the Democratic side.
Right.
To approach the issues that we face.
The advantage you have of the resources you have with former Senator John Blake, of course, and his knowledge of the issues that you'll be the beneficiary of. But back to now, how neat, it's like a perfect little circle. He now is on the staff of United States Congressman in leadership and House Appropriations Chair Matt Cartwright, who is our congressman as well and covers your senatorial district. So you're going to be at those discussions, and he's pushing some of the issues.
The great part about former Senator Blake is he knows where all the money is.
Exactly right.
Now it's just Congressman Cartwright's job of getting it.
Yeah, exactly right. And obviously, that's where, again, politics to me is ultimately it's about leadership, it's about personality, all those things, style that allow people to be attracted to you. These things, I think, are characteristics you possess. So, your personality will lend itself to, I would say, bipartisanship, and you'll be able to work across the aisle. Because remember, one of the frustrations that Senator Blake had, as you're well aware, which culminated in, there were many other issues too, but one of the issues was some of his frustrations. And with this money coming in, the Pennsylvania portion of it, you're going to still have to filter through a Republican-led Senate and a Republican-led House. So your ability, and a name I mentioned in passing earlier, I think will be a tremendous guide for you as well, since you're new to the Senate, will be you, D-Jack, because he's kind of the one hybrid. He was a Democrat, now he's an independent, now sits in Republican leadership. So he'll be a good person to kind of, because let's face it, you're going to have to deal with Republican majorities to get stuff done.
Yeah, without a doubt, which I'm excited to do.
I know. And you have a personality that's equipped for it. Now, you mentioned some of the other issues potential for state funding. Let's talk about them. You mentioned, for example, medical marijuana, and we already approved for that, so it becomes an issue of recreational use now.
Yeah.
I know our Lieutenant Governor, John Fetterman, has made that a major issue for him. So talk a little bit about that as a potential revenue source and some of the ways you can generate revenue.
I remember when I came into office, public perception was polled, I think it was around 55% wanted to see adult use marijuana. Okay.
Yeah.
Now it's over high 70s. It's almost 80% of Pennsylvanians want to see adult use marijuana. And I think one of the advantages of Pennsylvania doing that is we already have a state system of liquor stores that we could take the marijuana and put it in the liquor stores. That way, it's not getting in the hands of people under 21, whether it's sold in a plant form, a pill form, a gummy bear form. It's not going to children. So, I think that's one of the most important parts of that specific issue, and it'll be accounted for.
Right. That's a great idea. Honestly, I never heard anybody think or put it that way. The structure, is effectively what you're saying, is already in place.
It's already
there. And the other thing is, it seems like every few years or so, someone wants to get rid of the liquor control, the liquor stores. They want to take the state out of the liquor business.
And what I say to them is, imagine a business coming to Pennsylvania and employing 4,000 people and not costing the state $1 year in and year out. Not in pension, not in benefits, nothing. And actually giving the state around $500 to $800 million a year. People would be jumping for joy, sending them billion-dollar tax credits, and that's what we have in the liquor store system.
Right.
You know, and it's one of the most responsible systems. You know, with underage people with fake IDs, they're better at spotting them than anybody.
Right.
So, you know, it works.
So would you be, let me ask you this, would you be in favor of a bill that would privatize the liquor control system? Or do you want to keep it in?
Oh, I definitely want to keep it. Definitely want to. But I support what they've been doing with the wine stores and things like that.
Into grocery stores and,
But
mini marts.
Hard spirits, I think, whiskey and vodka, I think those things shouldn't be sold in supermarkets.
Right.
And
If you're already, the government is already through the Liquor Control Board, effectively, and that portion of the government kind of regulating the use of that dangerous drug and checking IDs and making sure there's some administration and oversight, liquor control agents police it out. You're kind of right in the sense that if it was done, if you add marijuana, that might be the additional responsibility, provide enough tax revenue to actually fund. So my point being earlier, so it's not in the chopping block every 4 years to get rid of it.
Yeah, and look at Colorado, $700 million the first year for the schools. You could allot that money for school. You could allot that money for tax rebates. There's all kinds of things you could do for that money, and it's not like it's not already out there. It's in a black market right now where the state's not seeing a dollar of it. Not a dollar of that is going for education programs or people for rehabs. You know, it's just out there in the black market somewhere.
We need doctors here, and I'm not qualified to talk about the empirical data relative to is it a gateway drug and other issues that are legitimate issues for government officials and senators and representatives and governors. But with that as an aside, just from a pure business model standpoint, if everybody's already using it and the state gets no revenue for it, and on top of that, we're burdening our police with arrests because it's in the crimes code for small amounts. I'm talking about 1 or 2 ounces,
and
small
then
amounts.
think about the decriminalization aspect of it. What is it costing the state every year criminally by having a judge have to come out, by having a police officer have to come out, by putting that person in jail that costs $40,000 a year?
Right.
Like it doesn't add up.
Exactly. Well, you've got on your plate a lot of issues. It's good to see you fired up about them, and you can make a difference. And as I said, I think the road for you, and which we've talked about off camera and you've acknowledged here, is going to be the ability to get stuff done is going to require bipartisanship. You're going to have to work with large Republican majorities. If the usual situation, which has occurred all but once in Pennsylvania history, where when you get 2 terms of a Democratic governor, usually you're followed with 2 terms of a Republican governor. And, Governor Wolf has taken a beating from me, as you're aware, on this show. And I'm happy to say, in a way, that I think our show, along with others around the state, clearly, that mandate that was given against him in terms of stripping emergency powers shows the other evidence, Marty, to me, is even though President Biden was winning Pennsylvania by a fairly large amount in a Democratic vote, the Republicans swept the other row offices, except for Josh Shapiro, who hung on. So,
but don't forget, too, the straight party vote was off the ballot for the first time.
It was.
So in urban areas like Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, there was no more circle the dot.
Exactly right.
So in those areas, people just went in.
They could split their vote.
And didn't vote for a lot of the raw offices. And
could be. That could be legitimate, and that's a great point. But we're going to find out, as I said, but you very well may be looking at the prospect of a Republican governor and Republican majorities in the House and the Senate. So I think your personality, and I know you a long time, puts you in a great position to be able to deliver for the people in northeastern Pennsylvania. You will be able to work with Republicans. I know among my Republican friends, they've already said they're looking forward to working with you. They believe they can. So wish you a lot of luck in your endeavors. Thank you for being here today in studio.
Thanks for having me.
And it's probably a lot better than last appearance here. When you have to come to a TV show with your lawyer to answer like all the legal issues that were thrown at you, but you've come out of that contest, I know, stronger, and it had to be gratifying for you to see the resounding vote you got. People believe in you. They heard the message, the right one. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Again, we're here today with Senator, that has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Yeah. Senator Marty Flynn, our about to be newly minted senator from the 22nd Senatorial District. You've heard his philosophies today and some of the things he wants to get done. So we're glad you can tune in, and we'll be back again. We're down to our final 2 shows after this one, and we'll be back next week with another guest at 11:30. Thanks for tuning in.